Okay, now we're going to look at assignment statements. This is where I left off in the previous video. And since we're starting over here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say clear console. Okay, so all that stuff is gone now. And now we're going to take a look at what's called an assignment statement. When computers process data, they need to be able to save it and come back to it later on. So if I have, let's say I have a variable called age, this statement will take the number 21 and it will put it in a variable called age. So age refers to some memory space inside the computer. We don't really care where it is as long as we can get it back again by referring to it, as I'm doing right here. So it comes back and tells me that age is 21. So the way an assignment statement works is you put the variable on the left-hand side and an equal statement, an equal sign, which is considered an assignment statement because we're assigning a value to a variable, and then I'm going to put my first name over here on the right side. And it has now set aside another area of memory called name, and it's put the string Tom in it. If I type name, it's going to come back and tell me that the string Tom is in that location. Now, an important thing about assignment statements is the variable name has to go on the left. If I try to do something like we'll just do age again. If I do 21 equals age and hit enter, it's backwards. The variable has to go on the left. You can't put it on the right. Okay? So it's going to come back and tell me 21, a constant, is called a literal. So 21 is a literal, Tom is a literal, 21.0 would be considered a literal. You can't put a literal on the left-hand side of an assignment statement. You must put a variable on the left-hand side of an assignment statement, as we did up here and as we did up here. Okay, so we're using variables, and I've got a variable called age, I've got a variable called name. How do I know what I can use for a variable name? Well, a variable must begin with a letter. It must be followed by letters, digits, or underscores. It can't be a reserved word like true or false or and or. And it is case sensitive. If I type age now and hit enter, it says that's not defined. I haven't assigned a value to age with a capital A, but if I type age with a lowercase a, it comes back and tells me that the value is 21. Okay. So if I try to do something like, 1 age equals 21 and hit enter, now it doesn't give you a very good error message. It just says invalid syntax, and it'd be nice if they could tell us a little more than that, but there are some error messages that you're just going to have to figure out. So it is pointing at the point where it realized that this wasn't a number. It's not a floating point number, it's not an integer because we've got some text attached to it, but that's not a legal variable name because it doesn't start with a letter. Okay, variable name should be descriptive. I shouldn't do something like x equals 10, or let's do 21. So type x now and hit enter, it comes back and tells me x is 21. Unless I'm doing something with x and y coordinates, x is not a good variable name. So use nice descriptive variable names like age to hold somebody's age, name to hold somebody's name, and so on. If I want to do something like, let's say, first name, I can run the words together, but it usually makes them easier to read if you put an underscore in between. So first name equals, and last name. And now if I type first name underscore and hit enter, it should come back and tell me that's Tom is stored in that variable. And last name, whoops, not equals, just hit enter, and it'll come back and tell me that the string Klein is stored in the variable last name. Okay. You can make variable names as long as you want to. I'm not aware of an upper limit on the length, but you want to keep them reasonably short. But you also want to keep them descriptive. So there's some kind of a middle ground in there between being too short and being descriptive. So if I do this, There's also a print command in Python. And if I do first name, comes back and gives me Tom without the quotation marks. Okay, so that's the difference between just typing in the name of the variable and hitting enter and asking Python to print it out. The quotation marks or the apostrophes around it are not actually part of the variable or part of the value. They are delimiters indicating where it begins and ends. So what if you want us to do something like, let's do a string. If you start with quotation marks and end with quotation marks, you're allowed to have an apostrophe in between. So this is a valid string. If I start with an apostrophe, though, and then say, he said, don't do that, and you can see the difference in the coloring now, tells me that I've done something wrong. The string should be green from beginning to end. So my string now is starting with the H in the word he, and it's ending with the N in the word don't. And then I've just got some extra stuff out here that's going to be invalid syntax. Okay, and it points to the character where it recognized the problem. Okay, if you want to do something like this, if you want, he said, and I want this whole thing to be a string, I can't start it with an apostrophe because there's an apostrophe in the string. I can't start with quotation marks because there's quotation marks in the string. So this is one of the cases where you would want to start with quote, 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 or apostrophe, 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 and end it with apostrophe, 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 and hit enter. And it comes back and it says, he said, don't do that. And I have the quotation marks. There's that backslash in front of the letter T there. But if I, let's do something else here. I'm going to, I hit the up arrow to bring that string back up so I don't have to type it again. And let's do, I'll make up a variable name here called sentence equals, and I'm going to assign this to the variable sentence. And now type sentence and hit enter. It still, that apostrophe has a backslash in it, which looks kind of weird. But if I do a print command, now it looks exactly the way that it's supposed to do. So even though that backslash is in there, when we actually go to print out the value of the string, that backslash is not there. So we really don't need to worry about it. We can have more complicated assignment statements. I can do age equals age plus 1. Okay. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to see what's in age. It should still be 21. And now I'm going to do age equals age plus 1. Okay. This may look a little funny, but if you think about what's happening here, this is an assignment statement. We're going to evaluate what's on the right-hand side. What's currently in age is 21. We're going to add 1 onto it and get 22. We're going to put that right back on top of the 21 that used to be there, and now age has the number 22 stored in it. If I type age and hit enter, I get the number 22. There is a shortcut for that. It's if I want to take this, I've got the same variable appearing on both sides here, and so when you have that, I can do something like this: age, got to spell it right though, age plus equals 1. So that means take the variable age and add 1 to it and then put it right back in age. And since I've already got 22 in it, after I do this, if I type age, now I should have the value 23 in it. Okay. I can also do something like this. Let's say I've got a variable called pay rate. So my pay rate is $10 per hour. That's a floating point number. My hours worked is going to be 40.0. That's a floating point. And then I'm going to do pay equals hours times pay rate. And hit enter. Now, it evaluated that. It took the right side of the assignment statement. Hours is 40, pay rate is 10. It multiplied them together and got 400. Put the value back in pay. We don't find that out, though, until we actually type pay here and say, tell us what's there. And it is the floating point number 400. Okay, so that's a simple introduction to assignment statements and variables. And we will pick up with more on data types and variables and arithmetic in the next video.